Good morning, Woodland fifth grade. Today is May 4th, 2020, and I am thrilled you're here joining me this morning. May the 4th be with you. Yes, I am ready. Star Wars Day on Disney Plus drops today, The Rise of Skywalker. I can't wait to check it out. I'll definitely be tuning in probably around 2, 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon with my sons. Can't wait to check it out. And this is, of all days, the big kickoff to Teacher Appreciation Week. Let me tell you something. I checked out last night. I was, watching TV as I always do quite late at night, and video came on over from our wonderful homeroom mom and from our wonderful homeroom moms and grade level reps. And what a video was put together. Oh, tears in my eyes. It's great to see all of you. Thank you for sending such wonderful messages to Mrs. Panos, Mrs. Seraphin, Miss Barber, Mr. Carly, myself. While this is the most unorthodox Teacher Appreciation Week we've ever celebrated, for me, and I've been saying this for 20 years, and I mean this to the entire Warren community, the way that I'm treated in the town and the way that we feel as a staff every week is Teacher Appreciation Week. We always have felt the love. We always have felt the sincerity and the partnership that we always talk about together. So thank you for kicking off this week with an extraordinary video this morning, and look forward to being, part of your life for many, many more years to come, not just this year. So, I've always had a very special relationship with the Warren Township community, and I'm forever grateful for what they have done for me in the past 20 years. So happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all my fellow teachers out there. But then again, and I mean this, every week is Teacher Appreciation Week. On this date in history, let's get to the news of the day. 1776, Rhode Island. Yes, they become the first colony to declare independence from England. Okay, little factoid for yourself. Yes, first state, first colony, I guess I should say, wasn't officially a state at that point. Rhode Island. And in Thin News Day today, there were some bigger events too, like the Kent State National Guard. I was thinking of putting in there. Fascinating piece of history if you'd like to take a peek at it. But in 1979, Margaret Thatcher sworn in as Britain's first female prime minister. Birthdays today. Today we celebrate the birthday of film legend Audrey Hepburn, no longer with us, born in 1929, passed in 1993. Legend, icon. Lance Bass of NSYNC fame, he turns, I don't have his birthday. How old do you say? Sorry, Lance, but your birthday's today. Erin Andrews, you probably know her as a sportscaster. You see her a lot on some of the football networks, such as Fox. She's 42 today. Jackie Jackson of the Jackson 5, he's 69, one of the original members. In 1796, a man by the name of Horace Mann. Yes, Horace Mann. Take a peek at him. He pioneered public schools to what they are today. And today, Randy Travis, country music legend, 61. And on this date in music history, not to leave out the little details of the day, in 1999, J-Lo, yes, she drops her first single with If You Had My Love, turns number 1 on the Hot 100 list. She dropped it today and was the first person to, I think, yes. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. She was the second person, I apologize. Britney had done previously that month to make her first single to go number 1 on the Hot 100. Couple of new notes today on the Titanic. I did push out a couple of more slides for you to work on today. Take in the sights, the smells, the taste, what you hear. Imagine the ship is now in its descent. You are on now the stern of the ship. What are you seeing? What are you taking in? So this is more of taking in the senses. I know you've watched a number of videos. What if you happen to have been on that ship as it was going down? What would have been your thoughts? You're going to fill in that organizer today, and then I'm going to push out to you a journal-style entry. Whether that's on Thursday, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to see how well you do today. But your goal is to really get many of those pieces written down so that my next assignment will be is I'm going to push out a journal entry for you that you'll use that organizer, and you will, your journal entry will be one of the relics found from the Titanic, wreckage. Math hours today, they'll be from 11:30 to 12. The video that I put out, please take some notes on it. They involve the conversions of both the metric and standard units of measure, customary units of measure. Please take them, take notes while you're watching the video. You can watch video 1 and 2 and then look for, you can watch slide 1 and 2 just to kind of understand what's taking place. And then for those of you that are interested, feel free to pause the video, look at the question that slide 3 is showing, see if you can work through the conversion. Then let me work through it and see how you did. Then go to slide 4, see if you can work through it, and then see how you did after I go through it. And the same thing with 5 and 6. If you're not ready when you get to slide 3, watch me. There's no order today. It's going to be a 2-dayer. So I gave you word problems today, and I'll give you word problems tomorrow. Social studies, I did push out for you the next couple of slides. You'll have a couple of days to work on that. Social studies pretty much will be like that. I'll give you a few days to work on more of the Constitution project. But then again, every week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Let's go. With permission from Scholastic, set it at the front. Chapter 10, Saturday, April 13th, 1912, 10:10 p.m. Let's go. So we left off. Let me go back a little bit. We left off on chapter 9. It said, Patty read her mind. There's no wrong way to do it, he shouted over the commotion. Just let go. Juliana wondered if that was even possible for the daughter of the 17th Earl of Glamford. Remember, they are partying it up in the steerage. By the way, the hair. Wow. Huh? The missus really just took to the clipper, huh? Can't wait for my hair man, Juan. Juan, can't wait till you're back in the shop. Anyway, let's go. Too much gaming. According to Elizabeth, Countess of Glamford, that was her husband's biggest weakness. The Earl knew this to be untrue. The problem was not too much gaming. It was too much losing. Weaving slightly, he stepped out of the first-class lounge and made his way to the boat deck for some air. If he could clear his head, perhaps he could go back for a few more hands. Maybe his luck was about to change. Obviously, he has some kind of a gambling addiction, right? He can't give up. He's got to go back, and maybe next time, and maybe next time, and maybe next time with the same result. Belay that, Mountjoy was coming toward him, probably armed with a few million well-chosen words. If the Earl allowed himself to be drawn into one of the man's interminable stories, he'd never make it back to the lounge. He turned into the shadow of a tall ventilation outlet and pretended to be lighting a cigarette. The ruse failed. "Ahoy, Glamford!" the Major called jovially. "A pleasant good evening to you." "Mountjoy," the Earl barely acknowledged. Well, maybe I read that wrong. "Mountjoy," the Earl barely acknowledged. "I must congratulate you, sir. You and the Countess have raised a remarkable young lady. Her ability to interact with all classes of society does her and you great credit." The Earl's eyes grew watchful. "My daughter, Juliana? At this very moment, she is in the aft well deck at a dance party." "Mountjoy, what are you saying?" the Earl exclaimed. Now he has her attention. Now he has his attention, right? Before he didn't want to talk to him. "Nobody goes to the aft well deck. It's in steerage." "Exactly," the Major smiled. "All classes of society, including that one. Good night, your lordship. Sleep well." No one had ever seen Rodney, Earl of Glamford, move so fast. He rushed down the companion stairs to the second-class promenade. The spectators were lined up 3 deep at the rail, and he had to peer overhead to see the well deck below. The revelry and abandon was most distasteful. But what did one expect of the steerage? And then his eyes, panning the ruckus scene, found His daughter. She was dancing. No, that term was far too civilized to describe it. She was a frenzy of movement, her head thrown back, her hair coming down loose and flying. The expression on her face was pure enjoyment. One might even call it bliss. For a young woman of her birth and station, it was completely unacceptable. I'll let you react to that for a moment. Just think of the time period, right? You're in the early 1900s, and for this first-class girl to be in steerage, she's messing with elements of society, I guess you would say, that she shouldn't be. First-class girl down in steerage is not something that would, really, really befit her. So, if you think about the time period, she's doing something that really, really would be revolutionary, or really almost against what a first-class girl should ever think of doing. The American was with her, Sophie, equally misbehaving, although that mother of hers would probably find this socially progressive. Both Juliana and Sophie were hanging off the arms of a boy in dirty work attire, and at close quarters all around them, touching, even were there persons, immigrants, foreigners, and who knew what else? Words failed him. How could the White Star Line permit such a thing? Aboard the premier ocean liner on the face of the earth, a gentleman could not have to worry about protecting his daughter's reputation. He stormed back up to the boat deck and collared the first White Star uniform he encountered. He grabbed him by the collar. What kind of ship are you running here? Steerage is full chaos and riot. The young girls are being lured to take part in immoral dancing and revelry. The poor assistant pantryman had only come for some air before going to bed. The last thing he'd expected was he'd be set upon by an irate nobleman. He stood there, speechless, his ears blistered, as the Earl raged on. "May I be of some assistance, your lordship?" came a quiet voice at his elbow. The Earl wheeled and found himself face to face with Second Officer Charles Herbert Lightoller. Look out. "Yes, you may. This is a scene of anarchy and debauchery taking place in the aft well deck." Lightoller smiled deferentially. The steerage passengers have few comforts and very little to entertain them. We try not to begrudge them their little parties, however vulgar they may appear to us. "Little parties?" the Earl exploded. "I'll have you know that my daughter has been practically kidnapped and forced to take part." The second officer's face grew grim. "Understood. I shall return her to your stateroom at once." He descended to the second-class overlook and peered down at the whirling dancers. He found Sophie and Juliana almost immediately. Their colorful evening wear made them two lilies in a hayfield. Pity, he thought briefly, to interrupt their youthful fun. But if the Earl said it was inappropriate, why, so it was. His eyes fell on the two girls' dance partner, the slight figure in coveralls whose swift movements made his features just a blur. The song ended. The dancers stopped, and the boy's face finally came into focus. Lightoller bristled. It was the stowaway. It's the end of chapter 10. Give you a moment just to react. Where's this going to go now? Lightoller is now spotted. Has now spotted the stowaway. What will happen? Chapter 11. Saturday, April 13th, 1912 at 10:25 p.m. Patty Burns was remembering what it was like to be happy. It was the speed that made it work, he decided, as if constant motion could unwind all the bad luck that had befallen him. The poverty of his family, the brutality of his stepfather, the squalor of his street life in Belfast, the murder of his best friend by the Gilhoolies, and his life as a haunted animal aboard the Titanic. None of it could touch him as long as he kept moving. He danced on winged feet, twirling the girls as the steerage passengers thronged around, stamping their boots and clapping. Even Alfie, whose face was pinched and anxious, was bobbing his head in time with the music. The stomping rhythm broke first. The crowd began to struggle and then part. Second Officer Lightoller bowled through the dancers, flanked by two able seamen. Sophie spotted them first. "Patty, run!" Before Patty could react, Lightoller's fist locked onto his wrist. Struggle though he might, Patty could not break the steel grip. Juliana did the only thing she could think of, with a cry of, "I feel faint." She threw herself forward, thrusting the second officer's chivalry. He did not fail her. He released Patty and caught her sagging form just before she hit the deck. When he looked back again, Patty was gone. After that, the chaos was complete. The revelers stood back to open an escape route for Patty, but closed ranks for the second officer and his men, blocking them at every turn. No one physically interfered with them, but the third-class passengers would not make way, no matter how loudly Lightoller bellowed. Patty scrambled out of the well deck via a steep companionway and looked around. From the rail, a heavy line was stretched overhead. One of the guy wires anchored the aftermast. Breathing a silent prayer, he shinnied up the taut rope and dropped down to the second-class promenade, well behind the spectators watching the party below.